but other than that, I think we do have a room to see. All right. Let's call this meeting to order. Thanks all for coming over to Chapel Hill for today's meeting. I think we'll start with the call to order and roll call, just to get record of who is in the room and who's online. I'm Josh Mayo from the town of Chapel Hill. Go right to left.
Caroline Dwyer, Chapel Hill Transit.
Jackus, Go Triangle, alternate.
Sarah Williamson, Orange County. Darlene Weaver, Orange County. Kelly Smith, Go Triangle.
Paul Kingman, Tax District, Go Triangle.
And online.
Jamel Wiley, Orange County.
Steven Schlossberg, Go Triangle Tax District Administration.
Landon Coley, UNC Chapel Hill.
Harriet Lyons, Go Triangle.
And I think I see Brandon is just, and Ashley's just joined us in the room.
And Brandon is on our team in Tax District.
Yep, Brandon Carey, TDA.
All right. I think we'll proceed to adjustments to the agenda. I believe we are good. I see the August minutes have been pulled. That was the only adjustment.
So I do have an adjustment to the agenda. Nish is not able to be here today, so I'd like to suggest we move the transit plan to next month.
Okay.
Saying the clarification of the transit plan amendment or the transit plan update.
Yeah.
Okay.
May I ask the staff work group administrator how that aligns with our public comment cycle for fiscal, for the, sorry, lack of sleep last night, quarter to fiscal 26 amendment cycle? Are we able to work that in and maintain the schedule for the rest of the? Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion and a second on that? On the adjusted agenda?
I'll second the motion. That was Sarah's recommendation as motion.
Cool. Motion by Sarah, seconded by Caroline. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Hearing no opposition, we'll move forward to public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll move past public comments to our first administrative item. The May staff working group minutes. Did folks have any comments on the minutes or any motions to make? Hearing no adjustments,
I was gonna ask, and I apologize that I am standing in for Meg as a family emergency out of state. Cannot be here, but I know that she had asked about adjustments to the minutes in general. I'm not sure if that applied to May, so I'm apologize that I'm asking a question that, asking you all to help me understand what Meg asked for in May.
Yeah.
Ordering the May minutes. So I know she had requested some adjustments. I see that the August minutes have been pulled from the agenda, but I'm curious if there were also requested adjustments in May.
I don't believe I saw any requested adjustments to May. I think if there's any change in how we do minutes, we wouldn't apply that retrospectively. We want to stick with our main minutes.
Okay.
Only change I have for the main minutes actually before we make a motion is to change that first 2024 to 2025, that first line.
At the end.
Do we have a motion for the main minutes? Have a second?
Hey, Josh, I have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, Stephen.
Good, the staff and my camera, I'm actually in a hotel right now doing this, so I apologize, but my camera's glitching here. But can the staff work group administrator remind us what the adjustments for the minutes were? 'Cause I do remember there was a lot of concerns on the May minutes too.
So Meg said, I had talked to her offline, it was some things that wasn't correct. In the May minutes that she had talked about, and I made those corrections.
Would we be able to get a copy of a matrix to compare the two? Because this was May was 4 or 5 months ago, so that might be more appropriate before even a vote on it, just to be honest.
And so you want the original plus the updated, is that what you're asking, Stephen?
I think, and I would defer to the group because TDA is not a voting member, but I would think it would be appropriate to kind of just summarize what the concerns were and what adjustments were made, rather than just put it back out there. But again, I will defer to the group.
Appreciate that suggestion. I do.
I think Doug had a question in the chat.
Yeah. See Doug's question, what's your concern, Steve? Is there an operative issue? I do want to acknowledge that Sarah had made a motion to move the minutes as amended with the suggested edit on the date. I think we do have an opportunity to have a second and then have a vote if we have concerns about passing the May minutes without those edits, or we could pass the minutes as is.
I don't philosophically have an issue. I just would want to make sure that Meg's feels like her comments were addressed. So I don't know how to do that when she's not here.
You said you corresponded with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a note from her on anything on basis of any adjustments that's satisfactory. I appreciate the chair's recommendation to, not retroactively apply, changes to how the minutes are done. It sounds like there was correspondence on adjusting the minutes. And absent a note, say that that was addressed.
Then,
Let's not hold up.
all right, I'll make a motion to approve the amendments.
Sarah has a motion. Can you?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's been so long. I will second.
Right, motion by Sarah, second by Caroline. All in favor of approving the May minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Hearing no opposition, the minutes pass. I think we can move to the June minutes. Did anyone have any edits or changes to the June minutes before making the motion?
Wasn't June, July?
Oh, it should be August, that's a mistake. I'm sorry.
August. Okay. I would ask that we hold off on a vote for the August minutes for a later meeting. Does anyone have an issue with that approach?
Can you share more about what that is for?
Sure. I think Go Triangle had some edits that they were asking to make to the August minutes. And I think we want to have additional conversation about some of the points, particularly the conduct on record point. So with that issue still outstanding, I'd ask that we not take action on the August minutes this meeting.
Hey, Josh,
Yep.
if I could please ask in response to any concerns that, as Stephen brought up, that if there are issues that it not be resolved in a conversation, but rather that specific suggestions are made in writing, and that gives the staff working group administrator the opportunity to respond to each of those clearly and inform the staff working group what changes were made to address them.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, I think that seems an appropriate route to make those edits before we take the minutes to the next meeting. Hearing no opposition to moving forward and no motion on the August minutes, we'll move forward to the fiscal year 26 Q2 amendments. I'd ask that we make a motion on each amendment, so that we understand which parts of the program that we're ready to move forward on and which parts may still need more discussion. We'll go in order with the first request from Orange County to add the Mebane circulator to fiscal year 26 Q2.
Is this discussion?
Yes, this is open for discussion.
I'm just wondering, what is the local, if there's a local contribution for this, or this is all Orange County funded?
So I'll start by kind of giving you a little bit about this project and where it is. The Mebane circulator is in the short range transit. And so this is our first step towards moving that into operation.
It's approved for funding in the short range transit plan?
It is in the short range transit.
Oh, the short range, not the transit plan though.
It's in the short range.
Your Orange County short range plan. Okay, but my question is, it's not in the Orange County transit plan update that was adopted in 2020. I don't believe that it is. So my understanding is there, well, maybe this is a bigger conversation, but I don't know that we have a great procedure process for adding new projects. Because those have to be, like, the transit plan has to be amended. Isn't that correct for new projects?
Yeah, I think
Okay. So this is not a work plan amendment.
I think it is being brought forward as a work plan amendment. I think we have looked at projects that supports the goals of the transit plan, even if they aren't explicitly named. If there are concerns about adding a larger project because it is not named in the transit plan, I think that's a valid concern to raise. On why we may not want to move this forward with the annual work plan.
I recall that, and before the new ILA and the new transit plan, we had a threshold for like what constituted, I think we call it a material change, like anything under a material change with a, like a work plan type amendment, anything over that threshold, like required action by all three governing bodies. Does anyone know off the top of their head what that threshold was?
I'm sure that it's a current ILA.
I don't know why.
I'm just trying to think, like, sorry, I'm not moving as fast as my brain at this moment. I was just thinking, I heard Josh say major, so I was in my mind trying to come up with like, what's the threshold for a, major addition versus single addition. I agree with you that it wouldn't apply. I'm just saying it's a point of reference.
I think the challenge might just be, we touched on this on and off, forgive me for being too messy, is if the plan is adopted with quite a bit of public engagement, we identify a certain number of projects, and then we identify the end of the plan, a certain number of unfunded priorities. If there are sufficient revenues to consider a new project, do we have to start first with the unfunded priorities, or at least go to those folks and ask if they're ready to move forward? Or is there an opportunity to open it up for new things? And I think we've talked about that, but we've never really made a decision on that. That seems to be the better.
What has been shared with me is that other projects have been moved forward that were not in the unfunded list. But I don't know exactly which ones those were. And as you know, I'm just bigger.
I think we're all, I think a lot of us are different memories and we're all just trying to,
I mean, so that's my first question, I guess. So the question is there a share of funding that's being supported by the city of Mebane or Alamance County? My second question is, this appears to be a vehicle purchase, but the project sheet says that this is an operating cost. So I'm a little confused about that.
Because of the way that is set up, that would come out of operating dollars, not
Vehicles.
Yeah. Because it's a one-time purchase, the operating rate for like.
So not just a mistake that I was put in. But it is a vehicle, and what we're looking to do is make some interim modifications to the existing Orange Alliance route.
Right.
That would help us to study ridership and decide where exactly a route would be most appropriate. while we get this purchase underway.
Okay, I think like I personally am less concerned about like a one-time capital project than it looked to me when I looked at it and it was operating, I thought this was gonna be like an annual recurring request, which it wouldn't be if this was a vehicle purchase. So that kind of answers that question.
And maybe Darlene, it may have helped too, because it may have been if you expand that, like that square there on the PDF, it's kind of cutting off words. So sometimes it's hard to see, because I'm not sure if there's stuff after. You know,
Yeah.
Well, I think we can expand this screen too, sorry.
Sorry, I think it's the
Yeah.
box
It's
here.
the Xbox. And
Yeah, and I, are you sharing?
Yes, this is my,
So, John-
sorry, this is my screen sharing.
Okay.
And this is the PDF, so I don't think we could expand on that.
Okay.
sometimes we convert to the PDF, it's something, yeah.
Well, I do
You can expand
a
it.
sheet that I could share.
Okay.
is it on the SharePoint? Just,
And Josh, you have, yeah, and you shared it, right?
And then my last question is. Well, actually, as I said, we need two more. So this does indicate that the checkbox is selected for is this program project in the adopted transit? And I'm not sure that it was, to be honest. I don't remember a Mevin circulator being on there, but I'd have to go back and look. And then what is the Orange County bus plan?
I think the Orange County bus plan may predates the transit tax, like the 2012, 2011 version of the plan. That predates both transit tax and light rail.
I just never heard of that.
I also had a question. We have a wake flood plan. I'm not familiar with it.
Did it not share? It's showing sharing on.
I think the Orange County bus plan is essentially the 2011 version of the transit plan, but it is not in the 2022 transit plan.
You're saying it's in the bus and rail investment plan. from
2012
Trevor?
bus and rail investment plan.
Yeah,
And the short
Correct.
range plan.
I would have to go back to the 2011 plan. I do have that on my hard drive. I don't think it got to because of the expense of light rail, we really didn't have substantial operating projects defined in the plan until the 2022,
Yeah.
2023 update. I can go double check, but I'm not sure, but I think I heard you say, are you finished with your questions?
Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
also, so like, point of clarification, like, understand that it is an Orange County assurance plan, like, we have $20 million of unfunded projects in our short range transit plan, but that, doesn't allocate the transit tax, right? Like, it's a priority of yours, I understand that, but it doesn't, there's no connection between Orange County short range transit plan and transit tax revenues and the transit plan that's created for allocating this.
And similar, Go Triangle also has a short range plan that includes items that were funded according to what's in the orange or the other counties transit and bus plans. And then similarly have unfunded priorities that are in the SRTP. And I think many of the agencies at this table in the 2022 and 2023 plan have items, I think Orange may as well, have unfunded priorities that are, in one of the later pages of the document. The plan. Caroline, you probably have a better recollection.
Yeah,
Of where that is in the document.
A whole bunch, because Tina called me every day to make sure, including over Christmas break. To make sure that they were included in there. Doing her due diligence, which like, obviously they're important, but I mean, and lest you feel like I'm picking on Orange County, I raised the same issue last year when Hillsborough came and asked for funding for a green way. I just don't think that we have a great process of managing these types of requests. So I think we need to better define that. I think there needs to be a more objective process of evaluating requests for new funding in between when we're adopting plans so that we're not restricting ourselves to being locked in by what's in the plan. Things change, we all understand that, and priorities change. I think amendments to things that are in there make sense. You know, there's a little more flexibility there, but I would like to say, regardless of whatever happens to this particular project,
So Orange
Nothing.
County has, my understanding is, and this is what Nish has conveyed to me, is this is the first project outside of the transit planning that we have taken care of the ones in the transit. And this has been a long-term priority.
I understand that, but I don't really know what's the point, like, not to be rude, but like, I'm not sure like what the point of that is.
Well, that we're not jumping this project ahead of ones that was in the plan.
You are jumping them ahead of other people's projects that are in the plan. That is like, yes, maybe Orange County's projects are funded, but everybody else's are not.
And we didn't have nearly as on the list. So it's a challenge that I've inherited. I'm trying to work through.
Understood. And I think having a process to like objectively evaluate this should be more helpful to you so that we don't have to have like weird conversations about how do we manage this every time these types of questions come up. Because I do think there should be a mechanism. I just don't know what it is. But I do think that there also needs to be some consideration for projects that have been on the list since 2012, right? Like many, there's a whole bunch in Carver that have waited a long time that I do think we need to consider if there's additional funding.
I would just say, I think I know where Nish is not here today and we're referring the request on the transit plan update, but I think the transit plan update is like the cleanest place to have that conversation and, reopen the prioritization of programming and understand what are the, projects that are on the unfunded list, what are new ideas, what can come off the list. Like, I think that's really the place where that conversation happens. I'm not saying that we can't have a conversation about this project now, but I'm just saying it. And to Caroline's point, we think we need a system. I think that just, to me, underscores the importance of the transit update.
And it sounds like this has come up before, but no system is still in place, even though it's come up previously. So
I'd be curious what requests we're describing. As Caroline mentioned, we've, I think raised questions when things come up that either aren't or maybe don't appear to be aligned with the plan. Granted, I've been less involved in this group in the last year than previously, but I'm not recalling, substantial numbers of projects that weren't in the plan.
The only one I can think of that came out that was significant last year was the Greenway request from Hillsborough for like $2 million or something like that. That both wasn't in the plan, and we were not provided with a whole lot of evidence of how it was directly supporting improved transit service.
So this service that would connect to the Cone Health stop that is a transfer point for all the other services. And it would be the first service in Mebane, which is an important area for us, and we all know that's for. Is there any opportunity to move this ahead and then continue looking at what this should be? Because we are ready to move forward operationally and have done all the work there. On our end, this is really getting the vehicle purchase is an important milestone.
I guess I'll note, it sounds like you are looking to discontinue the Orange Alliance connector and reallocate those funds toward.
We're not looking at this.
No, we're not discontinuing the Orange Alamance connector.
Okay, that was noted in the short range transit plan as a project to discontinue that route.
What we're doing with the Orange Alamance connector is we're not discontinuing it. What we're doing is we're adding to it to increase service.
So the Mebane route, when it's a full route, will connect to that Orange Alliance connector and move people
Okay.
to that.
I think my impression, given Orange County's funding and implementation plan and short range transit plan, is that the savings from the project of discontinuing the Orange Alamance connector could be used to support the operation of the Mebane circulator. I think if that was the route y'all were going, we could consider this a modification to service, where you take the service hours and allocate them somewhere else. If Orange Alamance Connector is not being discontinued, I think this does still continue to be a new project that falls outside the transit plan's range. So that may take away that route, to continue this project.
So is there any path to continue the project though? Because I'm hearing that that's a problem that we need to deal with.
So I have a question, and I'm gonna have to CRTP out. See if I can find a page.
Well, Jay looks that up. On this one, there's a new route in the transit plan proposed. So the vehicles there, what about, do you look at the full picture, like the bus stops that are gonna be needed for infrastructure and then ongoing operating service, cost per hour, ridership?
For a brand new route
Yeah, like this is gonna be a brand new route.
in the short, short.
Or just when it comes to here, the staff working group to approve a new route, do you just take a piece of it or do you kind of look at the whole
We
picture?
didn't really do that. We,
Right.
we,
Suggestions.
you know, this group, I think, is a, you know, allocator of funding, right? Like, there is, like, the transit plans, right? So each county or entity has, like, you know, Chapel Hill Transit creates a short-range transit plan, right? The way it worked last time when we updated the long-range transit plan for the whole county was that we started with everybody's short-range transit plan, right? And basically dumped those into a pile, prioritized them, figured out how much money was available and, you know, programmed projects up to that amount through the end of the horizon, year 2040, whatever it was, right? So there was no planning happening at this level, right? Like, it's more, the planning happens at the, you know, local entity level, and then the requests are made for project funding.
Because I was just saying, like, if this is approved, then they have a vehicle, but then the bus stops aren't approved. And Orange County, or Orange County would have to either have a van sit there or develop the bus stops and
I
then
think
operate. So it'd be kind of a whole bigger picture, I think would help visualize how much this is gonna cost over the next 5-10 years.
So right now, we're looking at the vehicle and we're gonna be continuing to look at the staffing, and all of those things. And so that would be something separate that might come up in the future. But we're not sure if that's how we would wanna do that at this point. But that's what we wanna work on while the vehicles ordered, because as you know, there's quite the lead time on that.
Jamal, did you have your hand up?
So, no, I didn't have my hand up, but I did have, so Josh, the suggestion that you brought up, about what is currently, I believe you said in the, I guess it's the long-range transit plan?
The short-range transit plan's implementation plan.
Okay, about getting rid of the Orange Alamance and then moving that funding to the Mebane Circulator?
Yes.
Okay, so if that is an avenue that we can use to move this project forward.
Okay, I would say if that is the avenue that y'all want to take, it seems like the request for funding would be a modification of service rather than a capital operating combined request. So I don't know if the Q2 amendment in front of us would be what y'all were looking for in funding.
Yeah, if I could ask maybe a clarifying question, either now or perhaps at a future date, just to understand, like, so there are, and I get that things change once you adopt a SRTP. Like, SRTP is a point in time, you continue to plan and gather more information and more feedback from your partner to understand the needs better. So, like, you know, as things change from the SRTP, but I think what would be helpful is, you know, as Josh and Caroline had mentioned, like, you know, the SRTP identifies discontinuation of 2,500 annual revenue hours. Then the Mebane circulator is 2,750. So I think it's, you know, it's a big difference if we're talking about, you know, a net new of 2,750 revenue hours versus a net of 250 revenue hours. I'm not saying that, you know, you're held to any of those figures, but I think it's just easier for us to understand, like, you know, what is the magnitude of the request. And then to what Jamal had just said, I don't understand, I am interested in understanding, if a route is being discontinued, how much useful life is left on that vehicle? Like, is that vehicle able to be repurposed for this route? Or is there still, is that vehicle at the end of its life and how we need new vehicles run the service? I think having that information is helpful. And just to be clear, like when, in our current CIP, like each of our agencies have to justify, how many vehicles are attributable to the services in the Orange plan. So Go Triangle, Chapel Hill Transit, Orange County Public Transit have all had to say, I need this many vehicles replaced on this cycle to run this level of service. So this is, something that I think is helpful to understand the context of this request.
All right, I would ask that, would Orange County like to request a motion on the Mebane circulator for the Q2 fiscal year 26 amendment?
Sorry, I have one more question. And that is the guy. Maybe it's not a question, I'm sorry, Chair. Statement. Okay, thank you. I do think it's important to understand the relationship with these two routes. I think what was described a moment ago of this being an extension of the Orange Alamance connector, like just looking again at the hours requested, so the situation where it's more hours, like that route is roughly 50-50 Orange Alamance. So we would be saying that the Orange Transit are taking on 100% of the route, that mileage is 50-50. In the scenario where it is primarily Mebane circulator, I don't have a route map in front of me, but just eyeballing to the SRTB, somewhere between 20 and 25% of the route is in Orange County, and then the rest is in Alamance. So we are asking the Orange plan to pay for something outside of Orange. I don't think across our 3 tax districts that we have something similar. I'd be curious for tax district administration if we have a precedence in this regard.
So this route in Mebane would really be feeding that Orange Alamance connector and helping us bring people to that transfer station to move through those other routes around the region. And we do collect the transit tax for those folks that are in Orange County and Mebane. So that is a considerable challenge that we always have to work with, is that Mebane is in 2 counties. And we brought this project here because there is some expertise that can help and support getting that going in Mebane. And that's also why we left the part open about how we want to do operations once they have been going. So this would really be a vehicle that would be for that service, but we're not asking at this time for staffing or any of those other allocations.
I'll just add to you in terms of the future conversation. I think this is a conversation about capital purchase for Orange County, but for the operation of a circulator that would be partly in Alamance County. The destinations for Mebane residents, whether they live in Orange or Alamance County, for better or worse, they're in Alamance County. Our grocery stores are in Alamance County, our downtowns in Alamance County. Most of our parks outside of Lake Mike are in Alamance County. So I think it is a disservice to enforce a boundary that, we of course recognize as a boundary for taxing and revenue purposes and all of that. But boundaries are made by people and have some level of arbitrariness to them. So I don't want to implement transit that does not serve the Mebane population because I don't count them.
So if I could,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So just looking at it, right, I think that there is, when we get down to the wording, I think that it is creating some confusion. So the way that the route is set up, right, is that it does cover Orange County. And then the Mebane circulator is also in addition to that coverage of Orange County. So it's feeding residents and citizens who live in Orange County into Mebane. And so basically, it's like basically saying, once it crosses that line, it's like where you like change the name on the head sign of the bus. And then it's gonna also feed those individuals that it picks up in Mebane back into Orange County.
I think that makes sense from a service perspective, and to Ashley's comment. I mean, I certainly appreciate that, the county lines are arbitrary, and, residents are not, mindful. They're not paying attention to the little green sign on the side of the road that says, leaving Orange County, entering Alliance County. Folks' travel needs are not beholden to the lines we've drawn. But I do want to, make sure that we are following and understanding the precedent. Go Triangle is a very similar issue. We have routes that, cross county boundaries. We have routes that, are in 3 counties and, don't have a stop in 1 county. So like we do have for regional services, a set of precedents for how we split our tax district funding. This is different. This is not a regional Go Triangle service, but do just want to note that like there, one, want to ensure we have consistent expectations among all of our providers. And 2, just want to be cognizant of precedent that we're setting, because I could make a very similar case that Chapel Hill Transit should have a route to Chatham to feed UNC. That route would almost be entirely in Chatham County, but it would serve a major employer in Chapel Hill. So I think we want to be thoughtful on how we set this up. And at least to date, when we do have cross county services, we sort of have 2 models. One is we split it 50-50. The other, which is the case, kind of the opposite of this case, where we're thinking about Go Triangle Regional Transit Center sits in Durham County. It's about a mile inside Durham County. And we have routes that are primarily Wake County routes, at about 100. That route is 100% Wake funded, even though its terminal stop is in Durham County. This is somewhat the reverse in the, at least the specific piece of the Evan circulator. The majority of the route is in Alliance County, but it does, provide that connection into Orange County. So just want to think through that piece. So I think there's sort of 2 pieces. I think the one is grappling or determining how to handle this request, sort of outside of the transit plan or transit plan update. And then 2 is the cost share. And believe me, I think this is a good service. I mean, Burlington, serves the Park and Ride. Go Triangle serves the Park and Ride. Park serves the Park and Ride. Like there is a need to provide a circulator service that will benefit residents, employees, visitors, all of our riders and our traveling public. But I think we just need to make sure we, have the conversation about cost sharing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, my point is, I have no issue, I am completely agnostic to the service itself. Like, my issue that I'm raising is that I think that when we have 2 pages of unfunded priorities that haven't been advanced, we need to be thoughtful about introducing new projects that are being prioritized first. And I don't know how we get there. I could think of many ways, but I just from a process and, public vetting, transparency perspective, the transit plan was adopted by 3 governing bodies and included those unfunded priorities with the promise that if funding became available, those would be the projects that would be moved forward first. So, so I have trouble operating outside of that, not being able to trace a clear path from how we got from not even considering those projects if funding is available to elevating a different project that wasn't even on that list. I just think we need to be able to provide some justification for that.
I do want to take a time check. We've been discussing this for about 30 minutes. If folks are comfortable, I would ask Orange County, would you like a motion to be made on this for this Q2 fiscal amendment? Okay, in that case, we ask for a motion in a second. Put it out for a second time. Does anyone want to make a motion in favor of moving this forward in the Q2 fiscal amendments?
I'll make a motion to move it forward.
Okay, I heard Ashley first and Jamal second. Given that this does seem like it may be a split vote, I think that we start with voting members, and then move to alternates if voting members are not present. I will go ahead and go down the list that I've got. Ashley? In favor of the amendment or against? Favor. All right. Carolyn?
Not in favor.
All right. I don't, let me just double check. I don't see any Hillsborough representation on the meeting currently. Tina?
I would like to offer a friendly amendment, so I don't know when the appropriate time is in the discussion.
I think we've got the motion in the second, so the the amendment as is in front of us.
I would vote no. It's correct.
I didn't hear that.
No. Jay?
No, that's correct. But I am curious with the. That's after.
I believe Go Triangle has a second voting representative. Do we have someone online for Go Triangle as their second voting representative? Hearing none.
Kelly, are you alternate for finance?
No.
No, okay.
And finance doesn't have the vote, so.
Well, there's Go Triangle Finance and there's tax, which gives the finance.
Uh,
I think the TPO will hold off until there is 100%.
okay. Sarah?
Yeah.
And I see Jamal as the alternate, for Orange County for their second vote. Jamal?
Yay, in favor.
I will vote no. So that is a 5-3 no, to not move this forward for Q2 fiscal year 26. I think there's some more discussion to be had, and we can definitely have that, and set it up for future orders. So the next project is BRT North-South from Chapel Hill Transit to amend existing projects to reallocate funding for NSBRT by moving funds from operating to capital. Caroline?
Sure, so this is neither a new project nor a new funding request. This is just allocating operating funding to a capital project. To use the we cannot currently use the operating funds. We don't have operators to operate the service, unfortunately. So instead of having that money just not be used, this will move it to a project that does need some capital funding. Which is pretty much the same as the second one also, which is, I give you both of them maybe? Or do you want to do them separately?
Let's do amendment by amendment.
Okay,
No financial impact.
none, zero, yeah,
It's
it's
all
literally,
it's already been allocated.
it has been allocated, it is just moving funds that we already have been allocated to it.
So moving funds off of Route D, Route NS, Route HS, and Route CW, and putting them towards BRT.
And that's through, I think, 29, and then after that, they would, again, be funded through the operating.
Do we have any discussion of this amendment?
May I just ask a question?
Yeah.
It looks like some of the services that would be, if I'm reading this correctly, would be reduced, would be the CW and.
They would not be reduced, it would just be our continued inability to implement those enhancements that we have not implemented yet. Exactly.
So it's essentially lap salary in the.
It's, yes,
Concept.
yeah, it's operating funds that we can't use to pay people because there aren't.
I see.
I see Doug has his hand up. Doug?
Yeah, I was just asking a question similar that I think Caroline was answering. So it was this enhanced hours or enhanced headways, or what's the service enhancements that are coming off of this? And
Yeah, A little of
Oh.
both. So the CW, I think, was improving midday frequencies. Let me pull it back up. Hold on. I can't even remember. The T would have extended to Patterson Place, and that was actually a split with Durham. They were going to pay 60% of that one. So this is really only our share. Thank you. The route NS, that was reduced headways during peak hours, and the HS would have added weekend service. The CW and the HS have been funded since 2022 or 2023, and we have not been able to implement that service because we don't have operators.
So are we anticipating that if, even though there are priority operation enhancements that the plan funds, that those funds will just be shifted to North-South BRT?
These are our priority operating funds. I'm not sure what your question is.
Why is, why are we asking for operational funds to enhance services and not following through on that and assigning more local funding, Orange County local funding to North-South BRT? Like how do we get these services running, rather than just parking funds there and then shifting
Sure.
it to capital?
Do you have a machine that makes people? Because we have no operators. If somebody has a solution to this challenge, we are open to it. We've already cut some existing service because we don't have enough people to drive buses. We've recruited, we are hiring, we have training classes, we have a lot of attrition and training. We have a lot of retirees, we have a lot of folks out on FMLA and workers' comp. It's exclusively a people issue at this point.
Are there other operation enhancements outside of these routes that the funding could support, either at Chapel Hill Transit or another agency?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I mean, I think that is what we are voting on with the fiscal year amendment of whether we want to allocate these to BRT or have that conversation.
Well, I think given the uncertainty around North-South BRT, continuing to assign funding to it when there is a lot of uncertainty around it right now, instead of focusing on enhancing operations, I think could set up an issue that we are even farther behind should something unfortunately not move forward with North-South BRT.
Sure, we'd be more than happy to have some sort of disclaimer that they can return to operating if the project doesn't come through or materialize. This is also only through 2029, so it's not all of the funding that's allocated through 2040. We've moved this funding for these projects, for the CW, the HS, and then I guess the NS for the last 3 years because we haven't been able to get operators. I don't know what to tell you. The other thing is too, is if we don't have the local share, the BRT is absolutely not going to happen. So that's a choice also.
Have you received notice?
Uptake is downstairs right now. I had to leave that meeting to be here because we're in our final milestone review for our risk and readiness. So they're here today.
So
Right now.
So following up with those,
Mhm.
at this point, you are not aware of an immediate shortage.
Nope.
That's fine, but you're still.
I just think they would fly a team out here just to talk through finances, schedule, designs for fun, to be honest.
And to your point, if something was to happen with North-South BRT, the funds could then be reallocated to the other services.
Although we still don't have people that operate the routes. So our situation is that because this is operating funding, if we don't use it, we lose it. And we'd rather allocate it to something useful than just seeing it, go into fund balance.
I just wanted to express my support and appreciate your creativity of putting these funds to use. You know, having been through the CIG process, I understand the need to demonstrate to FTA now before they will sign the SFGA.
Right.
So I get it. I think this is a good solution. I would just add that, hopefully the hiring market will improve, and, I would certainly support, finding ways to refund these services at some
Yeah.
point in the future.
We want to operate them. We truly do. We don't want to park our money, but as you're pointing out, the challenge that we have is that you have to show that you have it before you will spend it, which does require a little bit of tying funds up. Although, once we sort of cross that hurdle, things start to happen very quickly. We can move into property acquisition, which we're ready to do. We can start moving utilities, which we're ready to do. It's just getting this final approval. And if we do not have 100% of our local funding committed, that does not happen.
I see Stephen has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. My quick question is, and Caroline, I know it's not on the screen now, but I know it's cost neutral over the next couple of years, just for the modeling purposes. Is the anticipation that 30 and beyond just remain what 30 and beyond was? Okay,
Yes,
Perfect.
we would hope to be able to, hopefully in 5 years, be at a point where we could implement service improvements, especially as we're reallocating, our service patterns, introducing BRT, and that will allow us to gain some efficiencies in some of our other local routes. So things might be a
And-
little different then.
And one last request, I will discuss this with Durham County. Durham County also has their Route D. So I want to make sure that, unless you've already had conversations with Durham
I
County, I'll make
haven't.
sure.
It
Okay,
is
I'll
on
make
my
sure.
list. Thank you.
Perfect. Please include tax district on that conversation when you happen, person.
Will do.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Think about what to do with the Durham side of those funds. Our new, or one new fund, I think.
Doug, I saw your hand up. Did you want to speak?
No, I have nothing else to add at this moment.
All right. Any last discussion before the motion? Hearing none, do we have a motion to move forward on this amendment?
I'll do.
Okay, moved by Jay, seconded by Tina. I'll go down the line as well. Actually, given the conversation, let's do ayes and nays. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
All right. I believe that passes on a 6-1 or 7-1 vote. Okay,
So
Hey, Josh, because some of the people voting are online, we really need to do a roll call for these.
okay. Happy to do a
Please.
roll call. Sure, let's go back and hold a roll call on that vote. Ashley with Nevin. Caroline with Chapel Hill Transit.
Aye.
No with Whisper Representation, Tina with Carrboro. Jay with Go Triangle.
Aye.
No second Go Triangle representation, Madeline with TPO.
Nay, until there's 100% consensus.
All right, Sarah with Orange County.
No.
Jamal with Orange County,
No.
and I am an aye. So it is a 5-3. That's a correction on the record there.
Thank you.
All right, next amendment is routes in SBRT vehicles, amend project description and scope to clarify the use of funds.
So the NS improvements that you just saw previously, that were service improvements, required additional vehicles to support those improvements, which those vehicles will not be needed if we're not running the additional hours. We will also need to purchase 14 new vehicles for NSBRT. So this is again a revenue neutral amendment that is just basically changing the project description for this to clarify that we would like to use it for NSBRT versus the current NS route.
Is there any discussion of this item? Last things. All right, hearing none, we can move to the motion. Go ahead and do a roll call vote. Ashley,
Aye.
Caroline, Tina, Jed,
Aye.
Madeline, Sarah, Jamal,
This is just to clarify, this is just to amend it. This is not requesting any additional funding.
No new money.
Okay, yeah, aye.
and I am an I as well. All right, that goes 8-1, or 8-0. We'll go to our next item of Route 800 improvements from Go Triangle, request 5 additional revenue hours and 50% cost allocation to Warren County.
Yes, so we implemented improvements to Route 800 on March 9th of this year. We restored service levels that had existed prior to the pandemic. However, in both the Durham and Orange plans, there was when the plan funding was set as a baseline for Route 800, that was put at a pandemic service level. So we restored full service to the route in March. Since we've done that, we've noticed that we are having substantial on-time performance issues in the route. This is a particular challenge because this route connects with Chapel Hill Transit, Orange Public Transit, PART, UNC hospitals and campus. Also provides transfers to Go Durham that are timed at South Point, as well as transfers at our regional transit center for folks connecting outwards to Wake County. So this route, has, a number of time constraints that necessitate it having a high level of reliability for needing a high level of reliability for transfers. Because if someone is, 5 minutes late to the regional transit center, they've missed their transfer, they now have a 30-minute or more wait to the next bus. So our interest here is being able to add in about 5 additional revenue hours in each county. It's about I calculated yesterday, about a 15% increase in the total overall hours on the route, just to cope with variability and peak travel times. What we'll be able to do with this is we do have some trips that are, exceeding their current run times, so we'll add a little bit of time to those when we need to. But by and large, because of the variability and peak travel times, one day the route may take 55 minutes, the next day it may take 65. We just don't have a good way for that other than to, add in recovery time between trips. So adding in that recovery time will help us to, make sure that the next trip begins on time. So that the trip has the best chance of reaching its transfers of either to the route or getting people working on time at UNC. It also keeps our operators happy, because what happens today is the route is, it's a day where traffic is higher than average or at the 85th percentile travel time. That route, arrives late. That layover and recovery time has been eaten up, and the operators are forced to a very difficult decision. Do I go to the restroom? Do I stretch my legs, maintain my little quality of life, take my breaks so that I can begin my next run? Or do I take that time and make the route further late? Or do I just, suck it up and just keep going? And then they get to the end of that run, it's also late. Without sufficient break time, we have cascading delays and put operators in that position. So we see this as necessary to deliver reliable service while maintaining the scope that is funded in the transit plan, or identified in the transit plan, and to maintain and improve our operator quality of life. Happy to take any questions.
Nice. Just for clarification, when I look at number 5 on the top reference to the timeline in the form, it sounds like FY27, this would be kind of built into your overall system. So the request is really for the second half of FY26, and then assuming next year when we prepare our forms for operating, this will be worked into that without a process.
And I did include that FY 27 value in the request. Let's see if I can- Project sheet. Okay. Yeah. So the FY 26 is partial year for 7 months out of the year, assuming a November decision by the governing bodies. And then fiscal year 2027 shows the full year of that cost.
Are there any more discussion points on this item?
The 800 by the transit plan?
It is.
It's-
It was 20, it was a element of the 2017 plan, so it got the 30-minute midday service, Sunday service.
Oh, I see.
That would be considered one portional cost one, so you were describing.
That's right. Yeah, so this request is the request for these additional hours is split 50-50 between Durham and Orange.
Last call for discussion.
Yeah, so is the request, is the purpose of the request for the additional 5 additional hours, is that to get the vehicle or is the vehicle already there and available for the route?
The vehicle is available. This is running a 5th vehicle in service for more hours of the day. This is just the operating cost. So, salary, fuel, maintenance, parts, et cetera, everything that gets built into the cost per hour. I think we have a cost per hour discussion on the agenda, maybe, or it was, I don't know. I had seen something about cost per hour, but we are adhering to Durham's cost per hour policy.
If this isn't funded from the transit plan, what would the impact be to the 800?
So we would not be able to implement the additional hours, but we would continue to pay trips and take things. And the other option is to reduce service. We could, probably the easiest thing to do would be to reduce evening span, so that these hours can be reallocated to running the route on time in the middle of the day. Could also, another option is to, instead of sending the route out every 30 minutes, peak times, we could shift that to every 40 to 45 minutes.
So there are other options.
There are other options, but those options would not maintain the scope that's identified in the plan. We could also just let it be late.
Hey, at what point does that start to become like an increased cost to existing service? I think that's like another conversation to think about here.
I mean, in this case, it is additional
Yeah.
hours as
Yeah.
opposed to an increased cost of a single hour.
Yeah, I know, I understand. Thinking about as we're maintaining these services that are funded forward, like.
I think it is something to look at, granted, updating and making sure we have rest stoppers built into the hours that we assign.
Any other discussion on this topic?
Sorry, is the transit plan the only funding source for the 800?
No, the transit plan did this math earlier.
Right.
Yeah. I want to say with this request, this route is about 55% Go Triangle funded,
Mhm.
and then the balance about 45%. So 27.5%, Durham, 27.5% Orange.
So Durham, did you go to them with that thing or not?
I'll be talking about that 1 p.m.
Okay. So we're really, like, this is half of whatever the different, the half of the new that's needed.
Okay.
So I was looking to, yes, 22.5, 22.9.
Makes sense. Sorry, I got my math wrong.
And remaking the existing services,
So that's kind of where I was going with my question, is if it is partially funded at the new level. I don't know where that leaves you. If one agency funds and one doesn't.
a great question. We seek to get all of our projects funded. I mean, the request today is to release this for public comment. We'll make the same request in Durham. So, we'll definitely once we go through the public engagement process, conversations in Durham. Depending on the outcome of that body, so if we can alter, or we still have a decision point ahead of us to send this forward to the board. And my request would be to release for public comment. If Durham chooses not to, we can, this will have another opportunity to decide to hold this project if it so chooses.
Hearing no further discussion, ask for a motion and a second on this amendment for Route 800 improvements.
Only this.
We have a second. All right, moved by Jay, seconded by Tina. We'll go through roll call. Ashley. Caroline.
Discussion. I mean, I am just still uncomfortable, like, making decisions about things for new funding that, like, we just don't have a process for. And like, again, like philosophically, I have no issue with this. I don't have an issue with the Mevin circular either. It sounds like a great service. My issue is that, like, I don't know how to effectively manage new requests through the existing process. Sorry.
All right. No bills for representation. Tina. Oh, you seconded, but confirmation of support.
I'm kind of mixed on this. As the Durham resident, it's hard not to support it. I do think that this was gonna be my friendly amendment that I spoke to Lily about. I agree with Karen. I think we need to figure this out rather than continue this process. And if we talk about, sorry, I'm taking time to go for this comment. I think we do need to figure out and work this into the overarching agreement series, which I think we also need to review how we deal with these changes. So,
What's your friendly amendment?
my friendly amendment for the first would have been not to have voted,
Okay.
but to have asked the parties to go back and modify their application, because it wasn't quite clear what they asked was, rather than have a no vote in the record. Because I'm starting to feel this chasm between our group, and we need to work together to be successful, and I kind of want to see that happen. So my apologies for being late on that, but I could kind of go either way. I'm having just heard you, Caroline, I'm tempted to say no on this as well. For the 800, just until we figure out this process.
We're voting, so I'm just gonna offer, I mean, from our perspective, we're maintaining the scope that's in the project. It's just, we need some additional hours to maintain that scope and meet the on-time performance target. So that's, I'm not, running more trips or, serving new areas. I'm just trying to do what's in the transit lane now. But it may not change your vote. I just wanted to offer that clarification.
John, can I just make a clarification? We talked about the allocation percentage. It's actually 9.8% Durham, 9.8% ours, the 22. I was mixing up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it is the allocation for the 800 is allocated, 9.8% of the cost is allocated to Durham, 9.8% of the cost is allocated to Orange, and they're trying to pay out of their fund. So just, I don't know if that makes any difference to anyone, but yeah.
I do think
About 80%.
I do think we have moved back into discussion, so I will
Sorry.
ask to end in that
I
vote.
want to make clarification.
As a result, I will ask Go Triangle if you do still want to move this amendment forward for Q2.
I do.
Okay, then we will hold a vote. Are there any friendly amendments to this vote?
I would actually make it friendly. Like, cause I agree with Tina, I just think that maybe she's already on this, like, I don't feel like it's fair to penalize the projects that are sitting here now asking. So I don't know if there's a way to just move these forward and then with the absolute promise that we will not vote ever on an amendment until we address this issue. Like, until we have a process for evaluating these projects, like, we will not have another vote. Because it just, I feel uncomfortable.
I feel more comfortable voting the J1 project that is existing, than seeking some additional funding. Because we've all run into funding shortages than introducing a new project.
So what I've heard from you, Caroline, was a friendly amendment to, for future quarters.
Hey, Josh.
Yep.
I have my hand up, I'm sorry. Just to be clear on all of these, just so because I'm getting confused now. We are just voting to actually put it out for public comment, right? Like, because we still have to model everything. So we're not putting it, I know we've requested stuff from Orange County Staff Work Group Administration on financial stuff, but we're not voting on the project just for public comment, right?
I'd ask that the administrative team.
As a matter of procedure, once a vote's called, we really need to finish that vote instead of having conversations. This is getting very convoluted and people aren't clear what we're voting on.
I agree. I believe we can start with the friendly amendment, to see if Jay will accept it. Caroline, I heard your friendly amendment as we will move this, amendment forward for
But we
future.
already started voting, Chair, on something else.
We did, I think we moved back into discussion and could not proceed with that vote because it was so much discussion. For this next vote, we will not allow discussion, we will just hold the vote.
I'm sorry, I don't want to delay this, but just please point, is there something in the agenda materials that says that the purpose of this vote is for?
That is what I
bringing
asked,
this out?
Yeah.
that is what I asked the administration team to clarify. Is this to release for public comment or to approve for Q2?
This is approved for Q2.
Approval for Q2.
And then some, but you have to realize when we doing the amendments, when you fill the request to me, do you put in there that it's for public comment? Because you have to actually tell me as well. Does that make sense? So am I supposed to be able? No. I don't know what you mean. Okay, so when we do the vote, when we all voted on the schedule that we voted on in May, correct? Yeah. We all voted on May, we all approved the Q2 amendment. So the Q2 amendment means that y'all, not me, approve whatever is put in front of y'all. Now, a lot of times people say, oh, well, like Jay is saying that I'm putting this out for public comment. This is the first time he said, I'm putting this out for public comment. So after we do the vote, that's what normally happens. It goes to public comment. If it's required.
Well, clearly, either all of these are going to public comment or none of them are going to public comment. I mean, we're not gonna have some going to public comment and some not, so.
I've always thought after we did a vote, we go to public comment. Has that changed? Has that changed?
Does it come back for a vote after public comment is what we need to understand. Do we vote again after it goes to public comment or no?
Yes, we should vote again after it goes to public comment because you have to see did the public give you any comments. So based off the public comments, then you might have to make some modifications and provide us with the updates as a body to say, look, this is what the public said. This, and this. So how do y'all feel about that? And then you move forward.
Our action is we're recommending approval to put out for public comment, not recommending approval of the amendment. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
That's a different.
Doug has his hand up.
Hey, on the previous item, I asked a question if there were other priority operations that the operations funding could be devoted to instead of strictly moving it to capital, and was told that there wasn't anything. But then with this item, I'm hearing that there is an operational priority that's identified in the plan that needs more additional operational funding. So I'm a little curious as to, is there an opportunity to keep a net a net impact of zero to the model by using some of that transit plan operations funding that Chapel Hill Transit is saying they can't use because they don't have operators, and apply it to support Go Triangle's operational issues on this route and keep it whole.
Okay, would you like us to move money from NSBRT to the 800?
So let me address that. So Doug, I heard you ask if Chapel Hill Transit, I apologize if I missed the second part of your question, which was if Go Triangle had additional projects. So yes, Go Triangle has a project. But you know, in the past, through these amendment cycles, we have, you know, made requests to modify existing projects that are not budget neutral. So I, you know, had not, you know, made an effort either with Chapel Hill Transit or other providers to identify a way to offset these funds. So at this time, no, my request is not to amend, but we just recommend from Chapel Hill Transit.
Well, I mean, this request wouldn't consume all of the funding that Chapel Hill Transit is requesting to apply from operations to capital, right? It would only be a relatively small amount of it, correct?
Yes, but, and maybe this question, maybe the tax district can weigh in, but you know, I understand we have some fund balance. It seems like whether we give Chapel, like just hypothetically, my request is what my sheet. Can someone tell me the amount of my request?
It is 123.
123,000. So I mean, in theory, we could decrease one of Chapel Hill's operating projects by 123, transfer that to Go Triangle, and then assign 123 in new capital to Chapel Hill Transit. But I'm not certain
No, I'm suggesting reducing the request from Chapel Hill Transit from moving that operations to capital by the amount you need. So they still get to move, you know, 75% of the money to capital or however much it is. But rather than using, you know, robbing from another Peter to pay Paul, we're directing those resources that can't be used to expand service with Chapel Hill Transit to address your immediate service capacity problem on the 800.
I would say that would be an amendment to the BRT North-South project, rather than an amendment to this project. Since we are only releasing for public comment, we can have that conversation when we come back in October and vote on approval.
Yeah, actually, I think it'd be helpful to, oh, sorry, go ahead. Actually, I think it'd be helpful once we have, and I'm not sure the right process between staff work group and staff work group administration and tax district, but just to understand before this comes back for a vote, you know, what is the capacity? You know, is there fund balance available to fill both of these? You know, I know we have other operating projects that may not be spending things down. We may have other capital projects that are lagging. So I think it'd be helpful to understand what the financial capacity is before we vote on, you know, any increase, including this one. And to be clear, vote to recommend it to the governing boards for decision after public comment.
Yeah,
Tina, before we go, I do see Stephen had his hand up for a little bit. Stephen, are you talking? If so, we can't hear you. Tina?
I was just gonna say, I offer this as history, total neutral comment person. I do recall when the Durham Orange Light Rail project was moving forward and found itself short of funding, there were several requests that we all come together, both at the MPO level and as the Orange County and Durham County transit tax group. We all come together and just give everything so that that project could be successful because of the regional benefits. So I hear you, Doug. I think there's some real interest of keeping this revenue neutral, and when we want to pull from one project, where there's opportunity to do that. So it's not to dip into the kitty. I think we should explore that. At the same time, if we have a project that like the Durham Arch project went through so many years of preparation and needed local funding to get that over the hurdle, as we are now in the case with the Northside BRT. I don't think we should, I think we should do our best to get that over the finish line. So, because that has been our practice previously, so I want to come, again, neutral to this conversation, particularly if we're just voting to bring things to public comment, but I just think that's something we should be aware of.
I just wanted to second what Tina said. And also say, just remind folks in the room that, you know, the NSBRT has benefits to all of our constituents, all of our services, and by extension, all of our constituents. We each operate in that corridor. The project provides operational improvements to transit through a very congested part of our county. And that benefits all of us.
I do want to bring it back to the Route 800 improvements. Oh, Stephen, you did have your hand
Yeah,
up.
hey, Josh, just so everybody can hear me. So right now in the bank, we do have $26.7 million as of 8/31. Out of that, it does seem like a lot, but out of that, 4 million is for like capital and operating reserves. Another approximately 10 is for carry forward. So NSBRT, some of these projects. Then of course, another 600,000 or so is for FY26. At the end, we expected to move 600,000 from fund balance. So that does give us around 12 million. I would also say, because I know the fund balance question came up, the final FY26 model assumed 3.8 million in fund balance would be available. Obviously, there's some ups and downs. I don't have it in front of me. I think the low point might have been FY30 or so. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, the low point was 2.6 million in FY28. That's before the debt is assumed by the BRT. But so there is 2.8 in the last model as excess liquidity. And again, right now we're sitting at a 26.7 million in cash with around 12 million expendable. So there is potential as we visit the MIOP and CIP to make adjustments. But I know Jay made that comment, and I just wanted to be very clear that about where we are on the financial picture. So Jay, hopefully that answers your question.
I just request for more information in the future. But I think that's all it is. Thank you.
All right. For Route 800 improvements, for the amendment brought forward by your friend, do we have any amendments to that motion?
I think Caroline, you were gonna offer a.
Yeah,
substitute
well,
motion.
I mean, it really was just that advancing some of the requests now with the promise that we will have a process the next time we have to make these decisions. But again, like now if we're voting this out for public comment, like I don't. I have no issue with taking anything out for public comment. Like if that's the vote, I mean, fine. I just feel like we need a process.
So I'm not hearing an amendment.
Sorry.
Yes.
So is the friendly amendment to approve this to approve the slate to go to public hearing with the expectation that we will determine a process for evaluating amendments moving forward, and particularly requests for new projects that are not included in the adopted plan or unfunded priorities in the adopted plan. Yeah, I think that's really where we're going.
All right. I will ask that we take that wording. Dave, do you accept that as a friendly amendment to the Go Triangle Route 800 improvements?
Are we also going to revisit the Mevin?
I think because we held the vote on those, I would be loath to reopen unless folks wanted to specifically make a motion to vote again on it.
I would make a motion. I think.
I'll second that.
What I was voting on.
Okay.
So are we motion
I
to,
would make a motion to approve moving all of these to public comment. And
Second.
All right.
point of, yes, call it return the question. Do we need a motion to reconsider the ones we've already voted on?
Yes, I would ask that we make a motion to reconsider the votes that we held on Method Circulator, BRT North-South, and Route NSB RT vehicles so that we can start again from a clean slate.
I would make that motion. To reconsider.
At the risk of changing my own. The only project when I look through here that I really feel needs to be removed is the request for the owl. I have no way suggested that it's not needed, because I think it is. I just find it difficult to argue how that's related to transit. I think that's something that whoever's hosting the meeting, as part of hosting the meeting, should be able to provide. We all have them. And we can move the meeting to another location. We need to have someone else who has that already provide that facility. Harvard can provide that. I think we've offered to host meetings. So.
I hear that as an amendment to Caroline's motion to reconsider. I think that may not be the best amendment to reconsider the previous votes. That may be amendment to the slate when it comes
Yeah,
out.
we could do that as part of the follow-up.
So for the motion to reconsider the votes that we have previously held, do we have a second?
Second,
All right, heard Ashley first. Motion by Caroline, second by Ashley. Roll call votes. Ashley? Caroline? Tina? Jay?
Aye.
Madeline? Let's see, Sarah?
Aye.
Jamal?
aye.
And I'm an aye. So now for the motion to move the full slate forward for public comment. I heard a potential amendment to that. Do we have any conversations? Yeah.
May I ask that we go through or confirm that there's any questions or discussion on the remaining items on the plate?
That sounds good.
Sorry.
Yes.
So I just want to say, just to help out, number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12, it's just a name change. So all we're doing is a staff on who the person to contact. That's the only change to that. It's nothing else to change.
Yes. I think
Okay.
we've had a significant amount of conversation about the Mevin circulator, BRT and
Yes.
BRT vehicles. Do we have any other questions about those?
And 13 was being moved, right? That's the trend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, 13 will not be included in the slate that we are going to move forward.
May I ask another question on the method circulator since we're as part of the slate? Is the cost one time or recurring?
It is
One time.
Okay. May I, okay, in approving or in a motion, I think we need to note the amendment to the project sheet because there is a FY27 cost listed. Right, in a motion.
For the project sponsor, is the cost intended to be split across those two fiscal years for a one-time capital cost?
It is a one-time.
Okay,
And is the total 379,496 or 379 plus 388? Now, I'm looking at the agenda, and I see the cost listed in school 27.
Jamal, what was the lease?
I'm trying to find my sheet. So no, I think it's just a one-time cost.
It should be the 379. 496, that base year number.
okay, so it sounds like you may want to add an amendment to modify the method circulator sheet before releasing for public comment.
Yes, that would be my request. Just that we have that. It is a one-time cost that we, one, have understanding when this group votes, and two, agreement to adjust.
Stephen?
Yeah,
I see
it's
your-
the 379,496 cost, the base year cost.
Thank you.
Okay. Stephen, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hey Josh, I know that there's been a lot of question on obviously the last couple of months of minutes. I just want to make sure that because we just spent an hour and a half going through processes that we just kind of ended within like a 3 minute span. once I raised that question. I just want to make sure that the conversation that happened is going to kind of get incorporated into the minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You wanna know, am I asking Stephen, are you saying about the questions about how we, like Caroline was bringing up and Jay and Tina was bringing up, and Doug about how we do a new process or when things come in, is that what you're talking about? Clarify what you're saying.
I'm asking about like the whole conversation. We had a very lofty conversation on all the projects that came through. So I just want to make sure as the people will be voting on the minutes next month, that some of the concerns that were, or positives that were discussed are going to be discussed in it.
Yes, they will be.
Well, and Stephen, I just want to point out that it's at a really high level because even though this is a complex conversation, the minutes are no transcription.
Yeah, Doug, I agree 100%.
Great, thank you.
All right. So are there any other projects folks would like to discuss before moving 1 through 12 forward as a slate to release for public comment? I heard the conversation about the OWL device as one. Are there any other projects that folks want to talk about before releasing for public comment and not for approval? Hearing none, Tina, if you would like to make a motion without the OWL, you may. Anyone else may make a motion as well.
I'll make a motion to advance the slate of projects for public comment, with the exception of the OWL.
All right. A motion to advance numbers 1 through 12 with the exception of number 6 for public comment on the Q2 amendments. Do we have a second? Second. All right, motion by Tina, seconded by Caroline.
I propose a friendly amendment.
Friendly
Just
amendment.
to clarify in the action, the 379, 496 for the method circulator vehicle purchase.
Friendly amendment to clarify the method circulator plan sheet before releasing for public comment. Do you accept?
With the clarification of the total and what the purpose is, then I'd be fine with that.
All right, motion is amended as such. Any last steps for roll call votes? Hearing none. Ashley.
Aye.
Caroline.
Aye.
Tina.
Aye.
Jay.
Aye.
Madeline.
Aye.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Jamal.
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right. Having advanced the Q2 amendments, except the transit plan forward, I think we can move to our next item of project sheet and cost per hour training. Darla,
So I know that we talked about this in May. And so what I did was, for everybody's purpose, I created a how-to guide on how to fill out the project sheet step by step with pictures explaining what to do. All right, so how to do it, what to do with the examples at the bottom, so everybody will understand how to fill it out. So do you have any questions about that?
I do.
Okay.
So the request that I had made in relation to the project sheets was that we have a group conversation to discuss and walk through how cost per hour is calculated. And I want to make sure that that is still something that we're planning to do.
Okay. So it's in here. So basically what you want is a whole nother training and you want to focus directly on cost per hour.
I don't know if it's a training. What I would like is a collaborative coming to the table where everybody is aware of what's included or not included in cost per hour for purposes of the transit plan, because everybody calculates it a little differently. It's not the same for the transit plan as it is for certain other things. Because if we're not all using the same methodology, it doesn't behoove us, because then, it becomes a little unpredictable. The cost increases are hard to justify. It's not clear what's included or not included in Chapel Hills versus the Triangles versus Orange counties. You know, it can be a little nuanced and complicated, and I think our interest is making sure that everybody is working from the same calculation so that we all are, you know, submitting each year a similar number that, or a number that's been calculated using the same set of assumptions. And it doesn't, I don't know, it needs to be a training, but I think really it's walking through expenses and, you know, Jay, like, what are you guys adding in here? How are you accounting for this? How are we accounting for it? Like, is it the same way that Orange County is accounting for it? Because there's a very prescribed method of doing that in the ILA. And I think our interest is just making sure that we're all kind of on an even playing field from that perspective.
So could I suggest that we, as the operators, have a small working group and get together and we report back?
Absolutely.
So that everybody else doesn't have to be.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine, but like format and however we can get there, we can figure it out.
Okay.
All right, sounds like the operators will meet separately to discuss this and bring back to the group for a future agenda.
Josh, can I just opine real quick? So we actually, in May of 2023, the Orange County Board and the Go Triangle Board of Trustees, and I believe the MPO Board approved a cost per hour policy, similar, I think Jay mentioned it earlier, similar than Durham County did. So it kind of dictates or has guidelines of what is allowable. I believe Go Triangle, as part of the Durham Transit Plan, has kind of got that side vetted out, but I think that would be a starting point for, especially if anybody new, to just like realize that there is a actual policy that's adopted by the governing boards for cost per hour.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think I was one of the people who brought this up again, in part, not that I want to be as a non-transit operator, not that I want to be influencing how you make your estimates, but rather as someone who is part of this work group and has to stand in front of elected officials, I would like to be able to answer a question in an educated manner about how these costs are developed. So I would love to sit in just as a fly on the wall, just so I can understand that, and I think a few others of us may as well. So as I saw the training, it was really because it sounded like the different groups were coming up with estimates differently. And it would be helpful to understand, are those differences because you provide different types of service? Or are those differences because maybe somebody's not doing something quite right? And I'm not pointing fingers, I think that is partially the point of understanding what could we learn from others and maybe find opportunities for cost savings. So I'd love to hear that just so I can understand that better.
Doug? Doug?
Hey, sorry about that. I just wanted to remind everybody, as part of this cost per hour discussion, that it's really important to remember that when we get to the end and we get the results of whatever the calculations are, that all of the operators that we have across our region function very differently. So when we get to those calculations, it's important to remember the different factors that go into it and why they're different. And even though we might have a uniform measure, the variables about affecting how that measure is calculated based on, you know, some of the longer runs or the, you know, the different passengers or stops or whatever, is going to be different. And let's agree on a methodology, but also that the outcomes are different purposes and are comparable only in that context.
Any further discussion about the project sheet and cost per hour training?
At the risk of prolonging this, as we move to the project sheets, I appreciate the training. Obviously, you spent all the time on this. So yeah, my interest really was to change the project sheets, not so much just understand how to use them better. And so I would welcome the opportunity, and I'm happy to offer some changes. I don't know if it would be useful for one or two people who work on capital projects and one or two people who work on operating services to work together and, just because I find I find the forms overly complicated and not easy to tease out what to me is the useful information. And for me, and this circles back to this comment about having a clear process to make decisions. It's not, for me, it's not just about this group, it's about defending our decisions to the public and being able to say, this is why we chose this project, because we felt it was important, even though it's not in the plan. And I think if we can have that track record and we make it clear, we don't have any pushback. But, you know, to include some of these sheets, particularly when all the text doesn't fit clearly in the printed box, and include them in a public meeting packet, to me, that's a little bit problematic. And I don't think it's a huge lift, but I do think there are some refinements that can make it easier for everyone. And I'd like to see if we can do that. I'm happy.
Thanks, Tina. I think we can bring that back at a future agenda. I think if we, especially if we get an agenda item request on that, we can make sure we prepare for it. Right. Hearing no further conversation, we can move to public engagement and communication. For the agenda distribution date, I did want to ask this group if folks would be comfortable for both our purposes and the public's purposes, setting a target date for the agenda for Fridays. I think that would give agencies who are submitting more time to work with rather than the current Wednesday. It would reduce the time that the agenda is out for the full group, but that is a trade-off that I want to suggest to this group. Because it's not written in policy, I do ask that if folks are comfortable with it, that we move forward with it.
It is in our bylaws.
It is in our bylaws? Okay, if folks are comfortable with it, I can bring an agenda item next month to bring a change to our bylaws. Stephen?
Hey, Josh, just to clarify, are you saying the agenda or the information that's going to be uploaded?
All of it essentially moving 2 days. The agenda distribution would give us more time to provide information.
So if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, the item that will be discussed has to be done the first Monday of the month, and then any slides have to be done the first Wednesday or the second. I know that it hasn't really been that clear, but can you just like explain, is it going to be like we're pushing back when we notify staff worker group administration, and then we're pushing back when like slides have to be done?
I think that is part of the interest of pushing back the agenda date, is that giving the staff working group administrator the same amount of time to prepare the agenda, but getting the agenda published a little bit later so that folks have more time to prepare materials for the agenda. Because we've heard repeated concerns about the timeline to get materials ready for the agenda.
I guess I'll wait to see what's submitted in October.
I think October will be a potential change to the bylaws, and we can make the according change in procedures for the staff working group on when things need to be in.
May I ask a question? Have we also considered moving the agenda submission items earlier? I'm just thinking a week is a little bit easier to fit it into meeting cycles if agencies need to discuss internally among their members any items, or, you know, if someone has a question, you know, ahead of the meeting, you know, a week is a little bit more time to prepare a response. Question.
Yeah, I think the intent of this month's discussion is not to talk about the staff working groups administrators timeline. I think we do want to respect staff time to get the agenda done. I think my preference would be to move the agenda back and keep those timelines the same. If we want to discuss that further, we can have that conversation next month.
So just a gentle reminder, request to add items to the agenda for October. Should we have this to you?
Listen, I'm gonna send you, as soon as we finish this meeting, I'm gonna send it out. You're welcome.
All right, and then for minutes, I think I will work with the staff working group administrator on how our minutes need to be formatted. These are being held at Orange County, so we want to make sure that the minutes are acceptable and follow the procedures of Orange County and their clerk's office. But I've definitely heard some interest in changing how we record our minutes and want to pursue that further. Wanted to bring that forward to the group and see if folks had any concerns. If not, we'll continue working with the staff working group administrator to see what changes can be made there and what may need to go through bylaws. Right. Right. Hearing no other conversation, we'll go to Go Triangle with the fiscal year 24 ACFR update.
Jeff, this is an FYI, several folks do have a hard stop at 12.
Yes. In that case, would folks want to adjust the agenda to modify the update or the project sponsor updates? I think I'd personally prefer to get the ACFR and then let's skip the project sponsor updates.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Josh, can you just show your screen again, or whoever it was for the slides I'll walk through? Thank you, everybody. So I think the camera's working now, so we'll see how long that lasts. I am here with Michelle Jang, the CFO of Go Triangle, and Nidra Rodriguez, who's the Assistant Director of Accounting, who is the more or less senior accountant on the Go Triangle Finance Group, to talk about the FY24 ACFR. If you don't mind putting up the screen or the slides. It's on the bottom of the agenda. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. All right, next slide. So here's the final results. What we want to do is compare. So as everybody knows, back in October, Paul Kingman and I presented where we thought the year was going to come in, basically estimate or preliminary results. And what you will see here is on a high level, we were pretty much spot on. The only difference was we actually went into the interest income. Miscellaneous revenue is interest earnings. The ACFR, the Molden and Jenkins, our auditor, consolidated, because interest earning and interest income is pretty much the same thing. So they consolidated in one line, but there was no impact for what we reported. Next slide. Next slide. Similarly, we were pretty much spot on. It was a small accrual that occurred after. But for the most part, the bottom line is what we reported in bus operations, transit plan and tax district administration matched what the final ACFR that was audited is. Next slide, and feel free to ask any questions. Capital, similarly, what we reported, and if you go back to the staff working group minutes and information, you'll see we reported pretty much the exact numbers. Again, there was a small accrual adjustment that that was added, but other than that, we were pretty much spot on. Next slide. Cash, what we reported, this is from the slide deck back then and to now, there was no change. So at the time, there was 21.8 million was what we reported. We actually finished the year 21.8 million. As I just mentioned, in 8/31, we have 26.7 million. The reason that those adjustments are, obviously, we've gotten more revenue from Article 43 and the registration, but we've also paid, tax districts also sent reimbursement to all the partners. So, you know, there's ebbs and flows, but this is where we reported, this is where we ended. Next slide. So that being said, there was 4 findings. Go Triangle, what they do is, as an entity, they actually get their whole books audited. This is the full Go Triangle audit. So what you see here, and actually I could speak, I will send it over to Nidra Rodriguez, but there were 4 findings. They were minimal, literally accounting, accounts balance sheet findings, but and honestly, one of the findings was that they were just slightly delayed, obviously a couple of months. But Nidra, do you want to kind of just real high level walk through the audit findings?
Basically, excuse me. Hi, everybody. The bulk of the issues were just based on calculation. GASB, I think it was GASB 100 came out that required us to reflect our compensated balances and the calculation of the compensated balances, when it was calculated, FICA, the 7.65% was not included in the calculation. So they had to go back and readjust to add that value into the calculation. And then outside of that, it was just minor issues that had to restate those beginning balances pertaining to the accrual of some of our invoices and whatnot. As far as the delay in the audit itself, I'm sure you guys are aware that over basically from the period of February 24 through February of 25, we lost all of our senior staff in the finance department. So not having that leadership to coordinate and push the audit through, in essence, caused the delay. The current leadership that's in right now, to include myself, we came in late or early 25, early to mid 25. We were able to accomplish the audit and get it pushed out, but that didn't change the fact that it was late. We do not expect that to happen this year. We are on track to make sure to get it in on time, as well as we do not anticipate any prior period adjustments.
Great, thank you, Nidra. And then just to kind of wrap it up, if you have finance contacts is obviously Nidra and Michelle. So if you have any questions on the 24 ACFR, feel free to contact them. And again, as Nidra mentioned, the 25 ACFR is currently underway. So we might be reaching out to some of you for some information, compliance information, things like that. But I believe that might be, actually next slide. So just if anybody wants, for transparency, my right, Molden and Jenkins, who's the Go Triangle audit firm. This is their presentation to the Go Triangle Board of Trustees. They've presented it last month and they've presented it to their committee. So feel free to use that QR code. And the full ACFR is the other QR code to my left. So any questions, Nidra and Michelle Jang are on the call to answer.
Thanks, y'all. Do you have any
Yep.
questions?
All right, thanks, team. Appreciate it.
Thanks. It looks like really good results. All right, I think we have agreed to skip the project sponsor updates to hard caps on time. The next meeting is October 15th in Hillsborough. Any last things before we adjourn? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn? No opposition. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
everyone.
I think you guys through the meeting and thing.
Oh, yeah, I was asking the same question.
What are you trying
Nick might, yeah, so we're kind of the contractor, of the transit corridor study, and just somebody to like, get on our advisory.
If you don't hear from